Hey you all, hope you guys had a good day so far. First of all, I just want to say thank you guys for subscribing to my channel. To all my new subscribers, thank you so much. I have a quick word. I'm about to go Christmas shopping for my baby, so I wanted to get this out. I like to do a little late night shopping sometimes, so but God had me in the book of Hosea. And if you're familiar with that book, I do recommend going to go read it. But it talks about how Hosea was instructed to marry the prostitute Gomer. And you know, she was a harlot. That's the saying back then that they were saying. But that book and their marriage actually had a deeper, meaning behind it. It was instructions from God that he had to do, but it also represented how Israel, turned and rejected the promises that God gave them. They turned their back on God and what he had for them, and they turned to different things and, turned to idolatry. I think they also turned to worshiping Baal, worshiping Balaam, I think that's how you say it. But they turned their back on God, and rejected him. And but what's so crazy is that God knew that Gomer was going to go out and choose a different path and be an adulterous wife. He knew that. But he also knew that when she did go out there and choose that, he knew that she would return back to her husband. She would return back, because of the judgment that was out there and the things that were out there. She would eventually come back. So that was a representation of how Israel was. They had to go through judgment. They had to go through certain things, but the ultimate thing about that was God was willing to forgive. He was willing to give second chances. And I was just thinking, because I was just thinking really hard, and having my time with God, and I was like, God, you love us so much, because I used to be out here, I used to do stuff, I always wasn't in the best position, but God still loved me. And yes, I did still have to go through judgment, but you gave me a second chance, and that's why God wants us to always walk in the fruits of the Spirit, patience, forgiveness, long suffering, because God is working on people. God is working on us daily. So when we walk in the fruits of the Spirit, you start to understand, like, I can give second chances. You can give second chances because God gave you a second chance. So that's why, when people are, you forgive and you give them to God so that God can work on them. God can do that. And you do always take everybody back to God, because some people God wants you to separate from and not go back. But then there's some people that he, is willing to open that door to again in your life for you to forgive them. So I just wanted to get on here. I'll read this verse for you. It's chapter 14 and it's verse 4. I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely, for mine anger is turned away from him. So when you forgive, and when God forgives us, he turns his anger away from us, especially if we're repentant and we're meaning it and being wholeheartedly repentant to him. He turns his anger from us, and he loves us freely, and forgives us freely. So that means nothing, we can't be condemned for it. He's not going to shame us for the things that we repented for. So yeah, but all right, y'all, I'm about to go shop. I'll talk to y'all soon. I'm gonna still put that other video out this week, probably Saturday or Sunday, but I'll talk to y'all soon. All right, bye.